Ayo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The Vortex. Peace. Your host CYC to the LONE. And we've got the main man himself, Kevin.
Good morning.
And today's topic is Black History Month, or just Black history in general. So we've decided that for the remainder of this month, so every Saturday, or if it's a Sunday, if it permits to be in that, we should be talking within the subject matter of Black history. So today we wanted to keep it kind of, I'll say loose to begin with, would you say, where we're just coming to what Black history means to us, and just start moving from that corner. Would you say that's right?
Yeah. What's Black history mean to you?
Black history to me is it's a data bank, and if we're going to be totally honest, Black history is, to me, is just history. I hate the fact that we have to put black in front of it, but I guess to reel people in, to make people understand what we're talking about, I guess you have to put it into these brackets, these subheadings, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's like selling a product to whoever, or giving a product. You're going to tell them what it is. But for me, it's just history, because what Black people have given to society, to cultures, to religions, whatever, that has spread across the eons.
Yeah.
So I just think it's just history.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, there's things that you know when you're young, but you know a lot more about them when you're older. So in reflection, when you're older, looking back at the person you were, you have a better understanding of what certain things bring to the table for you, or what it brought to the table, and how it contributed towards your development. So for me, Black history as a subject is one thing, but Black history and me living it and its influence on my life is another thing. So I think for me, growing up in a household, a single parent household with an Asian mum, Trinidadian Asian mum, and no father about, no Black figure, it was only in reflection in my later years and in therapy, that it seemed that I was searching for blackness in some respect.
Yes.
So this construction of my self-identity, me becoming more self-aware, my self-confidence, that was supported by Black history in around 1995. So I picked up a book, and I didn't know that I'd had these identity issues, and I'm assuming that especially in the literature as well, for mixed race people, more so the literature might have the typical white and black mixed race. I read a paper where a girl was, I think, dark skinned Sri Lankan, and her mum was white or some other mix, and she was having issues with her identity. But I think the same thing, I was searching for something, and people have got to understand that as a psychodynamic therapist, I have an investment in thinking about things in an unconscious way. So I didn't know that unconsciously I was searching for maybe my father, who was Black, but in my search, I gravitated towards reading Black history in that search for my father and this blackness.
Right.
So in 1995, when I was living in a hostel, I was on probation. I'd gone to a Black bookstore in West Green Road, I think, or Stroud Green Road, one of the two. And I picked up a book by Peter Fryer, Black People in the British Empire. And it's funny because I didn't know who Peter Fryer was. I just picked up this Black book, and for some reason, I don't know why it was that book, I took that home and started reading it. And that started me on a journey of understanding myself, understanding our history, solidifying my Black self-identity. And I think my whole drive in understanding black history had been purely on that search for my father and my black identity more than anything else. And I think for black people, it's like we're any demographic.
Yeah.
You'll have a bias regarding your history. I think you'll have more of a bias if you feel that your history's been revised or omitted from human history. So the omission of black history, the revision of it, you know, it's like when I went to Egypt and you see a lot of defacing of the hieroglyphics, anything that was on the walls because of the black noses, the retelling of stories or the omission of stories and the contributions of black people from ancient times that created the foundation for science and how we operate now. That not being around and not knowing anything, for me, finding it out was like an enlightening moment, because ultimately what I had learned in my school days, coming up in the 1980s, was that black people were slaves. Right. Bottom line, nothing else, nothing more. You weren't taught black history. If they touched on it, it was slavery. If you saw it on TV, it was slavery, like Roots. And if you saw it on TV through the media, it was impoverishment, untamed Africa, tribalism, bone through the nose, not underdeveloped. You know, so for me, black history is part of my identity now, and it supported the construction of my self-identity, but also it's an understanding that black history is multiculturalism, because everyone was interacting across the globe at certain points in time through trade, etc. Abolitionism and the abolitionist movement wasn't just black people on their own. It was white and black people. Even though there was a load of black revolts, there was still a lot of interaction between a lot of different people, and the whole construction of world history was the interactions of all people, you know, but the real beginnings start in Africa. And I think there's still, you know, more recently, I know they found some bones in Greece, they still found some bones in China, and there's still this sort of move towards it, it feels like it, discrediting that humankind originated in Africa.
I wanted to ask you a question, yeah? And it's just based off something that you slightly mentioned, yeah? Would you say that black history, for a lot of black people, is a kind of like, it's like a therapy session when you're going through it?
Yeah, I think it's, there's a double-edged sword to that. I know black people that it is therapeutic. For me, it's quite therapeutic, but it's a journey with black history, depending on what age you are. So in my younger days, black history got me angry.
Right.
You know, the decimation of the Tasmanian population, the Australian Aboriginal population, the Polynesian population, you know, the treatment of the American population and those across the Caribbean. You're getting mad. Like, if you hear about stories like Mary Tucker, how are you going to hang a pregnant woman and then cut the baby out when she's hanging and then stamp the baby to death? Like, that level of murder and dehumanization, let alone the disintegration of the black family, and let alone the slave trade ending in 1808 in America and 1807 in England, creating a situation where people weren't getting any more slaves, so they start breeding slaves. So what are you going to do? Have a slave there that's with his wife, and then for better breeding, get a guy's wife from over there, and that guy who doesn't want to sleep with that woman because she's got a husband, he's got a wife, and you're forced into having sex to breed children. You know, the level of dehumanization through the transatlantic slave trade, for me, generationally as well, is unprecedented. You know, so for some people, when I was reading it when I was younger, lucky I could manage myself in a certain way, but there's some people that can't even touch black history, black people, because reading it is so traumatizing that they don't want to know about it. I speak about black history a lot of the time to people and even to some of my friends, and it's like sometimes they don't want to hear that. Yeah. So I think there's a double-edged sword. There's some people that get a lot from it, and there's some people that don't want to touch it. And I can understand that. Like epigenetic studies show that trauma's passed on over time.
What I was going to say to you though, with all that being said, and I think you've kind of touched on it, but just to focus on it, is it beneficial for us to just be focusing all the time on, the heroic elements of Black history, or is it just as important to focus on the trauma and some of the bad things that happen?
I think people have to understand that there is trauma that's unrecognised and to a certain extent undiagnosed. When I say that, because you can talk about transgenerational trauma or post-traumatic slave syndrome, as Dr. Joy Dugray calls it, and people don't take it on board as a real concept or something that's actually happening to you. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? That happened years ago, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because even educators, they understand ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. They know that through those trauma, it creates trauma. So imagine a timeline throughout generations where you're abused. The epitome of abuse you're experiencing over time. ACEs is in there. Adverse childhood experiences creates trauma. So over
Sorry, I just say that. Can you say what ACEs is again for people that's there?
Yeah, adverse childhood experiences. All educators know about that. They do it in the training, and they talk about children, especially nowadays when you're dealing with so much, dysfunction to a certain extent, because in the classroom they've got special needs kids and loads of young people nowadays that have experienced trauma that have come from abroad. English as their second language, and you don't know unless you're reading the files and you're at a certain level understanding what these young people have gone through. Even young people born in England, the extent of the trauma they go through in the family home, is upsetting, but it has a negative effect on their behaviour and their personality. So in thinking about slavery over 400 years odd, and the continued inequalities people face, living with trauma, Black people behave in a certain way. Why do you think that some people, regardless of them being straight and not ever having a criminal record, and you can ask them, there's Black people that be driving in their car, they're straight as a nail, they've never been in trouble with the police in their life. But as soon as they're driving and a police car comes behind, it's a problem in their chest. There's a physiological reaction that happens. Part of the trauma. When you go into a workplace or you go into an interview and you already feel on your back foot and you think you've had to study and do a lot more because already in your head you already feel that there's oppressive forces at work, that you've got to do this much more to be able to get the job. When you're in your job and you might be a senior leader or you might be at a top position and you're behaving all right, you're working professionally, everything is all right, but you can feel that your voice is not heard or you're not listened to or some things aren't taken seriously. The impact of that inside of you is traumatizing, and your trauma already that's been passed down is compounded through your social interactions on a daily basis. That's why there's a lot of things going on for Black people in regards to their health. And a lot of things going on for Black people in society that people don't understand. How can you have a situation? People say, oh, what are you talking about? Black history, blah, blah, blah. We've come away from that. You lot are all right. Now, if Black people are 10 times more likely to get sectioned, what is that saying? If Black people, if Black people are 3.5 times more likely to get sectioned, Black children are 10 times more likely to be referred to social care. Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die during childbirth or after childbirth. We're twice as likely to suffer from diabetes. We're black children are 1.5 times more likely to suffer from stillbirth. They're 45% more likely to die on a neonatal level, so from when they're born. Black children, boys and girls, are 2 times more likely to be excluded. Black boys are 3 times more likely to be permanently excluded. The prison population is, we make up 13% of the UK population, but we populate the prisons 27%. Now if you go and look at all the statistics about the inequalities, and right now the NHS have recognised what's going on with black people in the NHS and the racial bias that's going on. It's serious. It was on the even on the news the other day. The Charing Cross police station, racism, homophobia, sexism. There's always race in there, and you know mainly who's directed to. More so now we've got blacks and Roma gypsies. Sort of Roma gypsies are taken over because there's so much discrimination in that direction. But we've been here for a long time now and still facing ongoing inequalities on top of our trauma, and people say, what are you talking about? If I can walk into a room and identify, you know, it's like James Baldwin said, white people exist in a history that they don't understand, because there are social dynamics that they don't understand based on white privilege. Now, people want to get upset about the words white privilege, but like I've said before, and it was eloquently put by a lady on a TV program, but white privilege is not about what you get. It's about you not having to deal with the consequences of racism. So the dynamics, the social dynamics and the interpersonal interactions that we have with people are different compared to them.
Yeah.
They don't understand what we're seeing, what we're reacting to. If I'm in the workplace and people think this is all right, a funny joke, and it happened to me once, 2 guys that I worked with, well, Kev, I was going to a child protection conference. Kev, you got a suit on, you're going to court. You're taking the mickey, my friends. Yeah? So I know what that's about. Whether it's unconscious bias or a little subtle microaggression, it's more unconscious bias or conscious bias, because you know what you're saying. You think it's a funny joke, but it's based on a racist ideology. So it's like...
And it's touching into what we were talking about the other day, stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you know, it's society as a whole. I can be upset because there's a lack of recognition about the experiences of black people on a daily basis. And it's always, oh, it's about class, it's about this, it's about that. All right, yeah, class was the sort of the starting point for everything. Yeah, because it wasn't people at the lower end of the social strata that dictated or constructed the slave trade. It was those up there, the wealthy, that like sugar and coffee and all the lovely things. Yeah, but we've moved away from that time. Even though I understand there's been an indoctrination by the upper classes across the globe, through pseudoscience, through everything, through children's literature, that's manipulated people to the extent that for centuries now, people have felt, other demographics have felt, and other nationalities have felt that black people are inferior and looked down on them, or wild and dangerous, got lower IQs. Yeah, that narrative has been pushed through nearly every area, and it's stuck.
Let's focus on that for a minute. What does that do when they push out these narratives? What does that do to the society? One, to the people that they're talking about as well.
I mean, it's just pure manipulation for me.
Yes, that's what I would say.
You've manipulated society in a way where there's serious division, a racial divide. Instead of those at the lower levels of the social strata coming together because of the oppression they're facing all together, there's a divide where certain people are looked down upon. And treated badly continually, you know, from those that you've got a shared experience in regards to what you're suffering economically and socially. You know, so it's upsetting. But Black history for me is a wonderful thing. At least there's some acknowledgement. But real acknowledgement would be the pushing of Black history. Not even pushing. I can't even find the words. Integration of Black history into just world history. So it fills the gaps. That people that are studying history, are you really studying at university level? Are you really studying history holistically? If you don't know about the abolitionist movement, the Sons of Africa, if you don't know about the Ivory Bangle Lady, if you don't know about the Aurelian Moors, if you don't know about John Blank, you know, if you don't know about Paul Gilroy, if you don't know about C.L.R. James, if you don't know about Maggie Pocock, if you don't know about these intellectuals and these authors and certain politicians from over time, if you don't know about the Scar's influence, Rocksteady's influence on the development of reggae, if you don't understand about the influence of Jamaican and Trinidadian music in regards to skinheads, there's things you're missing out on, you know, especially with being here and being British. What don't you understand? That skinheads used to listen to Jamaican music all the time before they became more of a racist entity. You know, because there wasn't much skinhead music. Punk rock was the same, listening to reggae music or rocksteady music. But people don't understand the full extent of our history here and the interactions that were going on between white and black people, whether conflictual or amicable.
I guess it's something that I think the powers that be don't really want you to be too focused on stuff like that, because it's like having a wound and it's covered with a bandage. When you start to peel back the bandage, the wound, it looks a bit too grotesque.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's you know, because a lot of questions will be asked. How did this happen? Why did this happen? You know, it's one thing for them to be talking about, you know, you're 3/5 of a human being, you know, you only have this mental capacity, your bone structure's too dense and all this stuff. But when you start to go into the actual diagnosis of it, you find that a lot of that's not true.
Yeah.
And you find that when you start to look into certain things, there's a joke that comes to my mind straight away, yeah. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney, when he said that white people only like to look at the family tree, because, you know, if you get too close and shake it, a black person will fall out. So, yeah. You know, with that being said, for me, I think it's stuff where, you know, a lot of people loosely want to be dealing with black history. And that's why when you go to schools and universities and all this stuff, they will push the narratives only on, you know, the Atlantic slave trade. Yeah. And even when you deal with the Atlantic slave trade, it's loosely dealt with. Yeah. It doesn't actually go into what they really was doing, like, you know, the butt breaking and, you know, the dividing of families, the constant raping of all individuals of all ages, you know, the holding you back from getting an education and stuff like that. You know, the power of the drum, how they had to take little things like that. Those things are powerful. You know, the power of the drum. What was the drum doing? It was so powerful that the overseers had to be like, let's cut that out. You can't play the drum. Yeah. What was the drum doing to these people? Do you see what I'm saying? All of these things really matter, because, you know, when you start to ask the questions, you know, the answers eventually do come towards you. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of happening. But again, for me, I believe black history is very important. I believe that it is like going through a therapy session. You know, there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know and they don't understand. For me, this is what I see is, it's not just for black people, because history is history. What I'm finding is everybody across all cultures and races have been lied to. And we've been told these stereotypes that what we were speaking about the other day, and then Current Affairs was talking about what's currently. A lot of it is a lot of people's opinion rather than actual facts. And then when you start looking into the facts and into what's really going on, It's very surprising.
Yeah, and I think people have got to realise how much of a emotive topic Black history is, and why is it? Why should it be such a topic that when you talk to certain people about it, they get defensive? It's just history. You don't talk about World War One or Two, unless, you know, unless it was Jewish and you don't want to hear about that, you know, and the Holocaust. But people aren't getting defensive when you talk about other parts of history. But when you say Black history, already there's a feeling. Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that about? Some people get happy, some people get defensive, some people don't want to hear it. But there's something about it that sparks some sort of emotion in people, whether positive or a negative. But there's a reason for that. Because really, we shouldn't be talking about Black history in isolation.
Yeah.
We're just talking about history, parts of history. Oh yeah, did you know about blah, 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 when the Axiomites beat the Romans, yeah? But it'd be just in a textbook, not a part of history that you might get a snippet of in October the following year. And because it's not reinforced, you don't remember it.
And that's, you know, one of my questions, obviously, you know me, I always write questions. One of my questions was, how do you feel about it being Black History Month, just based in the month? Should it be everyday studies, or should we be confined to a month to get this education?
Should just be in the history books in school being taught. Same way, like, I as an educator myself, it's still, I use the word irk, but I don't like it. It irks me that the hub of child development is school. That's where you learn the most. All right, you got home and you got school, but you do a lot of learning in regards to social interaction, finding yourself, your self-awareness. There's a lot going on in school. You know that there's a certain demographic that are not having a good time in schools. The statistics show that. The first 5 years, I think Black children are underperforming. Even at GCSE level, they start, all right, there's some really good grades as well, but there's still a level of underperformance that shouldn't be happening. But like I said with me, the reading of Black history reinforced my self-identity. It gave me a different level of self-esteem. On an unconscious level, you process 11 million pieces of information per second. On a conscious level, you only process 40 pieces of information per second. As a psychodynamic therapist, I have to invest in believing that that's how things operate. Now, I'm a conscious thinking guy, and it's been hard for me to sort of jump into the unconscious realm and understand that unconscious is operating all the time, you know. But I think unconsciously, there's people out there that, when it comes to Black history, they unconsciously don't want to get involved. They feel threatened by it, you know, or something, and unconsciously other people gravitate towards it. And like I said before, there's bias involved in this whole situation. So I'm involved in Black history because I'm Black, even though I'm 58% South Asian. Hey, I'm laughing because my self-identity had been constructed through Black history. When I found out that I was more South Asian than Black, it actually had a real serious effect on me. And that's not me disregarding my Asian roots, but my self-identity through reading and whatever, I'm a Black man. And then on paper to see that I'm more Asian than Black, yeah, I don't know what it done to me. There was some working through I had to go through for about a month.
I can imagine.
It was a bit weird.
I can imagine. Let me. I see the conversation here moving on in the chat. So let me just have a look to see if anybody's said anything that we can add into the thick of things. Give me a sec. Bear with me, folks. A lot of people joining, which is dope to see. But I swear there was a point. See, someone here says, he doesn't have a name, he goes, I'm also a child of the foster care system from 6. I'm presuming, is that a Black person? I can't really see. But self-identity, I think, is often important.
It is,
So you know, that would be something which helps people along the way through Black History Month. I suppose if they got the right people talking certain things for them. Someone wrote, "My ancestors weren't allowed to play the bagpipes." I don't know what that means. Please enlighten me for that. Do you know what that means?
I don't know.
Alright, please. It can't.
Maybe that's some Scottish stuff.
Well, please.
Maybe because you know there's a real prominent presence in Scotland back in the day, you know,
Yes.
in antiquity. So,
Yeah.
but I haven't got the
Well,
all the
hopefully,
knowledge on.
this person's name's Council Estate. Hopefully, you can enlighten us with what you mean on that by sending us a message. What's that? Oh, same Council Estate again. I enjoy learning Black history. I know my granny was that supposed to be a Moor? You see, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, expound on what you're saying, Council Estate. That'll be dope. Oh, I think he has. Look, as we go through, I have a famous wall the Romans built running through my village. What village is that, bro? And he's saying again, it shouldn't be just 1 month. There is a lot of schools, and they should teach, but they don't. Also, the Tartarian Empire, they never taught us about that either. Yeah, man, he's throwing some good stuff
Yeah,
at
that's
us.
good. I mean, having Black history start previously from slavery was actually one of the biggest non-funny jokes ever. Because what did it do to the minds of young black people? Just thinking that the starting point of their history was slavery.
Yeah.
You know, you see interactions. There has to be a certain level of awareness. I don't know, it's because I've read quite a lot of Black history, and I'm a therapist as well, that there's certain things that I see sometimes that other people don't see. Now, the slave master mentality is still prevalent in society. The bowing down unconsciously to white people in a subservient way still happens. And I'm saying, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is this: we could be in a workplace, and there's someone, you might find out about it, giving the person at the top treats behind the scenes, like giving gifts, yeah. But then you find out about it, but you never knew about it, and you're like, right, like what's going on here? You might have a situation where there's someone white at the top, and you see that person interact with that person in a very professional way, but then when there's someone black at the top, that person operates in an unprofessional way, because they don't take the black person that's the lead seriously. But it's an unconscious drive. It's not that you're consciously thinking, I'll treat this black person different. It's just that over the years you've held white in high esteem, so you treat them better. I had a situation with a client that he left, but I knew he was going to leave, and I already felt that being a black counsellor, he felt that I wasn't good enough. And there was conversations before, and I'd sort of predicted that this client was going to leave. I could feel it. And he did. He did, you know, and it was funny because I had a conversation with another trainee at the time when I was training, and she had a black male client, and I said, I bet he holds you in high esteem. And she goes, he does. He said that one day I might train and become just like you. So you can see the dynamics, because some people, there's a level of conditioning that it's going to take a long time to uncondition that conditioning. How we've been conditioned over hundreds of years, and how that trauma's been passed down, and how society still operates, has dictated how some people still function in a sort of slave master slave way, because the trauma's still there. And because there's ongoing trauma with the social phenomenon, the negative elements of the inequality, the racism, the prejudice, the adultification, the fetishization, all the stuff, the demonization, you know, with all that still continuing, you're still not able to operate in a way where internally and externally there's a level of real autonomy. You're not free.
Do you know something was really interesting to me, yeah? Is and this is for you guys, answer this if you know, if this makes sense to you. I find a lot of people really don't think that they've been conditioned, or that maybe certain thought processes have been...
It's because they're all right. In their life, they're all right.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, for me, the more humanitarian you become, you know, and I'm talking about being a philanthropist and giving out a lot of money. Like I said the other day on the podcast, when I helped that Roma Gypsy lady, a Romanian lady, and bought her chicken and bread, that's how you're supposed to be with people. Sorry, what was the question again there?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's just very interesting how a lot of people are not aware, like they feel like, you know, they're not conditioned, or you know, certain ideologies or ways of thinking has been handed to them subconsciously.
Because their caring doesn't extend out beyond themselves. You know, if I'm all right, look at me. I'm all right. What are you talking about? Like trauma, what? Inequality, what? I've never faced it. But because you're all right doesn't mean it's not going on. I just spoke up the statistics. Those are things that you can go to Embrace, the King's Report, or Runnymede Report, and all these reports you can read. Keon West, The Science of Racism, and look at the statistics. It's saying the same thing. There's serious inequalities in society that are continuing even after the fact that we were enslaved for 400 years. We're still facing something that's the cherry on top of the trauma that we're already going through. So if there are these ongoing oppressive forces that we're facing, how does our behaviour have to adapt to deal with that? It's the same thing like on the plantation. We had to adapt to plantation life, and so we had certain behaviours. We developed certain behaviours. This beating of our kids so they don't get out of line, they don't get eaten up by the slave master. This keeping our children close, like in the shops. It's been passed down. Nothing much has gone on. Remember, slave labour changed to wage labour. Nothing much has changed, apart from you get paid, but because of the socio-economic system of capitalism, you're still getting exploited, but not exploited to the extent that there's no pay and there's generations of your family in slavery.
It's really interesting. You touching on you know, all of these horrific things that we've gone throughout the you know, the centuries and all of that. And yet, you know, when you go through traumatic experiences, generally after that you get therapy. But we've never really had therapy, and it's so interesting that we talk about the transatlantic slave. But what about the 1,000-year part of slavery, when it was the Arab slave trade and all of that, and even some of that is still continuing right now, the brutality and the mistreatment of certain African people in those areas right now as we speak. And don't get me wrong, you know, slavery is not something I think we should always be dwelling in, but these things happen, so it's good to look into that, because obviously beyond those areas that we're talking about of slavery, we've got magnificent empires, we've got magnificent inventors, we've got magnificent people that gave a lot to history and society that we still use today. But more focusing on what you're saying, the trauma of all of these things has never really been addressed with black people, even to a lot when we've spoken about on certain other episodes. Black people are not really forthgoing when it comes to therapy.
Nah.
So a lot of the behaviours, like you said, that's been ingrained from all of these traumatic events, subconsciously we don't know where they come from, but they still live with us.
Yeah.
We still carry them out.
Yeah, so reparations, you want to debate about reparations, even though you've given the Jewish people reparations. Who else? There's some other people that I think that, who else has got reparations? There's a couple of people that have got quite good reparations. We haven't. Then give us reparations for therapy. You want to debate on how the money should be distributed. At least give that, because black people need it. You know, so and this is another thing that gets me upset. You know, today I am talking as the other side of Kevin. Yeah, you want to start chatting nonsense about Africans and slaves, and there was we know about slavery, we know about classical slavery, we know about ancient Greek slavery, we know about Roman slavery. There was a guy called Vidius Polio who some Roman guy used to feed his slaves to the fishes. We know about Icelandic slavery and Norwegian slavery. There was all that slavery going on at different parts of the world at different points in time. We know about the Irish slave trade and the Berber pirates from like 650 to 1900s and something. And we know slavery now, there's about 40 to 50 million people in slavery now. But the slave system then, chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade was generational. Your family was born into slavery, you were bred into slavery, it continued, your family got disintegrated, you got raped. You had Thomas Thistlewood raping over 3,000 women. He was filled with syphilis all the time. You had Dr. Marion Sims doing horrendous operations on black women and little kids. I could go on with a list of demon-like people and pure savagery that they imparted on black people. And then you want to talk about, oh, stop talking about slavery. Like, come on now. There must be a more humanistic quality in your being, that you can establish an understanding of what people went through and how they've been suffering and what they're going through now. Otherwise, how human are you? All right, we understand this. There was migration out of Africa to different parts of the land. Yeah, to different parts of the globe. Through adaptation, through natural selection. Vitamin D, you need some vitamin D. But if you've got black skin, you're not getting it. So you lost your melanin. Yeah, so your skin went white. Your nostrils went thinner because you can't breathe in that cold air with big nostrils. So you adapted like that. So if you have a real understanding of who you are, and ancestrally, if you go all the way back, you'll find that leads to Africa. White people, who are you, if not descendants of Africa? We're not dissimilar. It's just that we kept our melanin. But you want to have this real bee in your bonnet about black people talking about inequality and what they've suffered and what they still face today, when you're actually the same people, just with different culture. Bottom line. So sometimes in reading, and that's why I'm an advocate for reading. You know, there was, like you said that joke earlier, there was that joke, how do you keep a secret from a black person? Put it in a book. Now, that joke wasn't funny, so I'm a reader. Yeah, I'm a reader. And for some of you out there, like on the protests that have got one brain cell, there's some of you out there that are fully functional, but for some of you that are out there protesting with one brain cell, there's only one thing you really need to do. Read. Read a book. Pick up a book. Read about history. Read about our contributions. Don't be stuck so deeply in that world of manipulation, because you have been manipulated into thinking a certain way about a certain section of society. Pick up a book and read, my friends. We're all one people. We all bleed the same. We all breathe the same. Just because you lost your melanin thousands of years ago doesn't mean we ain't the same blood and we ain't from the same ancestry. Alright, you may have, you Eurasians, you European and Asians, may have interacted with Neanderthal and got 1 to 3% Neanderthal DNA, but we don't care as Homo sapiens sapiens, we still embrace you. So please, start reading and understanding that we're all one people. The world is going to, I won't use that word at the moment, Look at the war, Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, Israel. Look at what's going on. Look at kids suffering. There's kids suffering in this country. There's kids suffering in other countries. People are impoverished. People are doing mad things on the streets. We've got to pull it together. You know, and really as well, for the younger generation, please jump on the bandwagon, because you're actually the world changers. It's the young people here that can change what's going on right now with old ass ideas, sorry about that are still prevalent in the modern day, dictating how we behave and how we operate. People have got to be better. They've got to do better.
How important is us having these conversations, us talking about these uncomfortable things within us as a people and society, in the fabrics of things? How important is it?
Hey, that's why I love Jane Elliott, Dr. Robin DiAngelo. Those two that talk about white privilege and they make white people feel uncomfortable, but it's easily accepted when a white person's doing it to a white person. But I also acknowledge the bravery of white people that put themselves in that uncomfortable space, because they want change. There was a lady that qualified before me, and there was a paper about racism being lodged in the paranoid schizoid position. It's such a great paper. And we had a conversation, and she said how that paper had changed how she saw things. But there's people out there that think about their further development and how it will contribute positively to them interacting with other people that are not the same as them. And I love those people. And that's when you start seeing the more humanistic characteristics coming out of people, because they want to develop to get on with people. We've all got biases. We've all got biases. The other day, you know, this whole Israel war going on, I was in the shop, some Jewish people were there, and I felt this feeling, and I thought, why am I, because I'm reflective enough to acknowledge the feeling, like, why am I feeling this feeling? Because I'm being corrupted by the media. I haven't got enough information to feel a certain way about a certain section of society. And not all Jewish people are the same. There's Jewish people out there that are standing up against what's going on.
That's right.
So why am I feeling that feeling? But I checked myself. I'm calm, yeah? But there's people that just feed that, look what happened in synagogue in Manchester. That's nonsense. Nonsense. People aren't supposed to be treating each other like that. What, to kill someone over what? That person's got nothing to do with what's going on in Israel. They're just in the synagogue doing what they're doing. It upsets me. It upsets me that people have become so animalistic, you know, in a time, because it's a contradiction. We've become more advanced technologically, but we're going backwards mentally.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think we got like, we're approaching the last 10 minutes, I would say. What I'd like to do, I see that it's popping off here a bit, so I just want to scroll through that and then just close out with the last couple questions. I don't think Council of State came back and expounded on what they were saying. Black Cinderella says, Black history is every day for me.
Exactly.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, we're living it every day.
That's right. She said, I would say yes. We were black kings as well before slavery. Stockholm syndrome, sir. She's saying. Accepting us, that's what I call Stockholm mentality. Anything good we have done or doing, they burn it down or steal it. Jedi Online, it says big up you man, salute fam. But yeah, let's just kind of wrap it up in a way. I had one or two things written down. One thing I wanted to say to you is just to give them a sprinkle of something. Yeah, if you could pass down one piece of black history to the next gen, a story, a lesson, or maybe a figure, what would it be and why?
There's too many stories.
I know, but let's just get, as we're dealing with Black history, just give him something that you think that this is important for them.
The story of
hold on, because basically what you could be doing is giving them something what they don't know about, and they can go away and research that.
Yeah. All right. King Lalibela of Axiom.
Yeah.
My man, he had a back and forth with his brother. I won't go into the story. His brother wanted to kill him. He went in to the wilderness. He come back. Brother still wanted to kill him. Went out into wherever, met a woman. Come back. The brother had felt a way that he wanted to kill his brother. He allowed, I think, Lalibela to take the throne. I haven't read about Lalibela for a long time, so if I get the story wrong. But then he had some dreams, man, and then Lalibela went out. Go and check out Lalibela's churches. I think 11 of them he built by hand. If you see the construction of them, it's quite funny because ancient constructions supersedes construction nowadays, especially if you think about the technology they had then. But check out, there's one in the ground that's like a cross.
Yes.
That one there is famous, but he built, I think 11 churches, 10 or 11 churches, but check out King Lalibela. There was kings from back in the day, whether it was Nama, Hatshepsut, whether it was Zoskel, Zizana, whether it was Pi or Kashta or Shabaka, all these kings and queens, ultimately, like Amina, etc., and Cleopatra, all 7 or 8 of them. Yeah, check them out. But check out Lalibela, great story. But I will come with someone that's more touching, really.
If I had to say one, my one will be King Nama. Selfless plug again. I can say it now because it's official. That my album, my next album coming out will be called The King Nama's Palette.
Listen to that.
Volume 1. And the reason why I think he's special is because he was the first pharaoh of Egypt. He unified the upper and lower region. He was a military leader. He was a great leader to the people, smiting anybody that was coming in to try and infiltrate and misdirect the people. I think that's a sense of leadership that we're missing today from great Africans and just great black people in general. We do, not trying to say we don't have great leadership, but I just think what he did was very important, and we need to keep that sort of mind frame going. But yeah, I won't go too much into him because it'll be great for people to do their own little research on him and stuff like that. But again, the album kind of scrapes on little bits and pieces of that stuff. So yeah.
And is there going to be a listening party for that album?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. The listening party for that album will be the 22nd of November. I shall be putting out a flyer for everybody to to get the information and stuff. But please, man, tap into that dope album. If you love hip hop, you know how it goes.
And don't shy away from the kings and queens and greatness of our contributions and achievements. You have to do the reading. I know a lot of people that sort of skirt around the periphery of black history and have little bits of information, but for your own awareness and for your own identity as a black person, it's horrible to talk to other people that know more than you sometimes. And you think you know a little bit, and then after they school you. What's even weirder sometimes is when you get schooled as a black person by someone from a different demographic about black history. And even when I was teaching black history at my old workplace, what was a real upsetting situation for me is that a lot of the typically white children actually loved black history. So, and some of the black children, it felt, had an aversion to it. But again, that shows how special black history is, and it has a place in schools. It's not like black history, white children don't want it. Children just like learning. Give them the full extent of the history. You're cheating them otherwise. The education system's cheating children by not giving them the full extent of history. How can you say you're teaching a full curriculum of history when you've missed out so much?
But should we be waiting for these people to really manoeuvre for us, or should we be manoeuvring ourselves and then creating these sort of platforms and infrastructures ourselves?
If there's not a convergence between both, yeah, we should be doing our own thing. But you've got to understand the system's set up in a particular way. So I might teach my children something, and then when when they come into conflict educationally with the information in school, it's going to create a problem for your child.
Right.
Oh yeah, Columbus was a great man. No, Columbus was the first guy in the Americas. No, you know, whether it was the Nubians from the 25th century or Abu Bakari II when he done his voyages, you know, people were there before. So if I teach my child that and he's outspoken, says, no sir, but Abu Bakari reached there before Columbus and the Nubians from the 25th century did. No, what are you talking about? Like, you can't have that. So they've got to jump on board.
I hear you.
Because they have to understand that the information that you've provided your children with is real and significant, and they know it. So they say, oh, well done, Che, my son's name, well done, Che, you're right. You know.
All right, so look, we're going to wrap it up because I see the time coming up. Just before we go, brother, could you give them, again, your socials or any way that they can contact you or find you outside of the verbal vortex?
Yeah, so therapy.iam.me@gmail.com. You can also get me on SSBT Consultancy, ssbt.consultancy@gmail.com. I'm going to bring my phone numbers next time because the only one I can remember is my personal phone number. That's not very good.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to try and have all that. You know, like, just put your stuff there so you just grab it and have a look at it and just recite that. Guys, we have to look, obviously there's so much to unpeel, unfold and talk about. But so far we've just been giving ourselves an hour to really just to have these dialogues with you. Hopefully we might be able to expand that soon. But I hope it's been a nice journey for you lot so far, talking about Black history. We'll do the same thing next week, Saturday. Peace and love, guys.
Stay human.
More importantly. Yeah, love.
Yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex.